Does everyone have my video and audio on? I hope so. Okay, good. So I'll continue. I won't be able to see everyone or comments, but we'll continue like this. So the Rebbe Marash one time stopped on the street and sat down and was deep in thought. And they asked him later on what it was, and they told him that when he went by this spot in this marketplace, he suddenly a very deep revelation of Chassidus came to him. And he was able to focus in such depth and clarity he was never able to do before. And he said, in this spot over here in the marketplace, one time it was getting late and there was a Jewish person who needed to daven mincha, and he stopped and he davened mincha right in this spot. And because of this, there was a tremendous light in this area, in this spot. And therefore, he was able to understand, come to depths that he was never able to reach before. So whenever someone davens in a spot, there's always a mark left over there, a space left over there. Many, many stories about such a thing. A story once of the Baal Shem Tov, his wagon driver was named Alexei, a non-Jewish wagon driver. And one time the Baal Shem Tov was traveling with his Talmidim, with his close students, and he told them in the wagon, I want you all right now to think thoughts of teshuvah, because Alexei, the wagon driver, wants to kill us right now.
Oh.
And they immediately started thinking very deeply thoughts of teshuvah. And after a while, the Baal Shem Tov told the wagon driver to stop and asked him, says, Alexei, tell me the truth. What were you thinking about right before? He burst into tears. He says, Rabbi, I know you're a holy person. I've experienced so many things with you, but I had a thought to kill you and all your students. Mm-hmm. And Baal Shem Tov admonished him, don't ever think such things again. Continue driving. And Baal Shem Tov said, and in this place, unfortunately, in the past, there were several Jewish people which were murdered in this place. And the mark was left over there. And that's why he had this thought when we went by. But through our thoughts of teshuvah, we sort of purified the air, purified the place. So whenever somebody davens in a spot, even if later on they leave, but the Kedusha stays forever. The Rebbe brings an example from radio waves. Once a broadcast is made, the waves stay in the air forever. If you happen to have a receptor 100 years away, you're going to receive that broadcast in 100 years from now. Things stay forever, especially when it comes to Kedusha, the holiness. And therefore, there's even a thought in the Gemara that if someone wants davened on the spot, in a place, on the street, you can never use that place. You can never go to the bathroom in such a spot. Says the Gemara, Tana Kamed Rav Nachman, a Tana Tara Braisa. Before Rav Nachman was known to be a unique in reviewing of Braisas. Hamispalel marchik arba amas umashtin. V'amashtin marchik arba amas umispalel. If somebody davened, let's say they davened the mincha, or let's say it was a shacharis, but they're wearing tefillin, and somebody needs to go to the bathroom. If they're on the street, he should walk 4 amas away from the place he davened, and then he could go to do water over there. And a mashtin, somebody went to the bathroom, marchik arba amas, has to walk 4 amas away from the spot he went to the bathroom. What's unique about it is, even if, let's say he went to the bathroom in a urinal, let's say, or there was a hole in the ground, there's a sewage in the ground, and he went to the bathroom over there, urinated there, and it went into the ground. Walk 4 amas away from that spot, umispalel, in order to daven if one is on the street. Amar le, Rav Nachman told back to this Tana, Bishlama hamashtin marchik arba amas. Remember, Nachman was an Amira, but Tana means someone who can review Mishnahs. Bishlama mashtin marchik arba amas umispalel tenina. Granted, the second part makes sense, that someone who urinated and wants to daven should walk 4 amas away from the place we went to the bathroom and then daven. As we learned in a Mishnah, how far should a person distance themselves from urine? The same thing would apply to sewage. Same thing would apply to any other smelly type of water that was stagnant for a while. How far should one distance themselves from it?
What we doggy do too, right?
Uminatsaya. So minatsaya is dung. Doggy do would go in the same category. Arba amas, 4 amas. Halacha is, if it's something that's not smelly, doesn't smell, you have to go 4 amas away. If it's something that smells, you have to go even further than that, till 4 amas from the end of the smell. Which, interestingly, like, trying to imagine how it was back then, where the whole town and city smelled, because they used to use camels or horses to get around the city. I was in one place in Guyana where people use horses and donkeys to get around the city, and the whole city smelled.
But as you were actually
in a place where they use, where cars are less common than horses.
Oh, did you actually? It is the Guyana, right?
Yeah.
Ah.
This that he says, you have to daven and then walk 4 amas away from that place in order to use a bathroom. Lamadli, why? Just because I davened in a spot, it becomes holy. Therefore, I can't go to the bathroom in that spot. If so, you have sanctified every single street in the city of Nerda. So I have a little picture up here on the screen. You see over here, looks like a bench on Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, and someone's sitting, and it looks like he's learning. To me, right? He's learning on the bench. Now, so you go on the subway, people learn on the subway. There's daf yomi shiur on the subway. You could say that in a place where they daven, that no one is allowed to go to the bathroom. And here's another. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this.
He's on a skateboard.
So I'm going to try doing a different share. See if this one over here. Maybe you could see this now. So you see, this is a picture taken in the old city of Yerushalayim, and you see this man is on a skateboard, and he's standing and he's learning as he's going on the streets. Does it make the street into the sanctity of a shul? That, of course, we know according to spiritual things, something a person does in Avera, it has an effect on the place. He does a mitzvah, it has an effect on the place forever and ever. Halachically, is there any difference what the person did in the street? It's not a shul. So let's go back to sharing this. So rather, the Gemara says, Tani Yisha. So the Tana, the one who was repeating the Mishnah to Rav Nachman, he made a little emendation. He says it doesn't say you have to walk 4 amas away, but rather wait the amount of time that it takes to walk 4 amas, which is, let's say, about 10, 15 seconds. But doesn't mean that you have to walk 4 amas away, because in that case, every single alley, every single way, and every single street in a very populated Jewish area has a sanctity of a shul. Rather, what it means is as if somebody davening on the street and they need to go to the bathroom, and back then, and in many places in the world, even now, they need to go to the bathroom. They go to the bathroom where they are. So there's nobody around. So you have to wait the amount of times that it takes to walk 4 amas, because until that time, a person is still davening, and it's not a set place for davening. Obviously, if you're in a shul, or if you're in a beis medrash, you're in a place where people daven, then for sure you cannot go to the bathroom in that spot, in that place. Ask the Gemara a question. Bishleima mashdin. Granted, if someone went to the bathroom and then they wanted to daven afterwards, so you should wait at least the amount of time to to walk 4 amas, because of the droplets. After one goes to the bathroom, there's the last drops that have to go out, and that could take an extra couple seconds. So because of those last droplets, one should wait an extra few amas to make sure that they're not absorbed into their clothes in order that they're able to daven. So it makes sense that after one goes to the bathroom, one should wait at least 4 amas before starting to daven. Now, of course, we wash our hands after, and that probably also takes the time to walk 4 amas. But if one never touched that area, which was common back then, even now, and halachically, it's not necessarily that they actually have to wash their hands. But still, there could be extra drops that come out afterwards, and therefore one should be careful. And even if one goes to the bathroom, let's say in a hole in the ground, which is 10 tefachim deep, so there's no smell and no sight of whatever it was, and it's absorbed in the ground, still, you have to wait a time of 4 amas because of the droplets, even if it was a urinal or something like that. However, Gemara somebody davened. Now they finished davening, took off their gartel, and now they want to go to the bathroom. And we said they don't have to walk away from that spot because they're on the street. It's not a shul. We said they still have to wait the amount of time that it takes to walk 4 amas, to walk 6 feet. About 6 to 10 seconds. They have to wait before going to the bathroom. Why? It's not a place of a shul, so why do they have to wait? It's certain times. Certain people have a very hard time waiting at all. I was in Venice, Italy, and someone outside the Chabad house, someone came running over to me, says, "I need a bathroom emergency this minute." I said, "Yeah, we have one around the corner." He said, "No, I need one right now." I said, "Okay, fine. I'll let you into the back of the shul over here." And then, so he says, he told me something. He says, "I want you to know that anybody my age comes over to you and asks to use a bathroom, you have to let them do it right away." He says, "You should never know this." I said, "Amen." Right. So why do you have to wait 10 seconds after finishing Shemana Esrei? If one's on the street, let them do it immediately. Answers the Gemara, Amar Rashi. Rashi says a beautiful thing. Shekol arba amos tfilas estura befiv. In the amount of time that it takes to walk 4 amos, you finish davening, but the words of davening are still on your lips. They're still fluent in your mouth. And his lips are still moving and enunciating the words of davening. So therefore, even though he's not actively davening right now, but since the words of tefillah are on his lips, and therefore has to wait the amount of time that it takes for him to walk 4 amas before going to the bathroom. Halachically, it's allowed to go to the bathroom in the same exact spot one davened, even the person themselves. However, the Karban Nesanel was, you ever heard of the Pandors? They went around making pogroms from town to town.
Wow.
And interesting, at the end of the Sefer Karban Nesanel, end of Shas, he writes a whole story how Hashem saved him from the Pandors, how he had an old revolver, talking about the 1600s, and he was able to hold them off. And here we see it's very important. If someone comes to attack us 10 times back. He saved himself, his family, and any other Jewish families which were in his house. And he writes to thank Hashem, and that's why he dedicated himself to writing the Karban Nesanel. So he writes that even though halachically you're allowed to do it, however, it's a midas chasidus, a way of piety, that if you know someone davening in a certain spot, you should not go to the bathroom in that spot. And of course, it's always best to go in a spot that's quiet, that's tznius, not visible to other people. And even if you're alone in the field and you daven in the field, still in the place where you daven, you should have derech eretz. You should be careful. And we're going to bring afterwards a story of the Gemara and Rebbe Zakkai to show how if one is machmir, one is mehader, one is stringent in beautifying a mitzvah, you'll see how Hashem in turn reciprocates and gives them much, much more.
What's interesting that nowadays is when we have specific places which are dedicated for going to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, here you have a shitty bathroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say before it had been made, maybe somebody had actually down there, but I mentioned that now it's not having any sanctity whatsoever because now it was made into a bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So does it mean how much would this apply nowadays when we're not usually?
It would still apply nowadays, and unfortunately more than we think. There's people who go to use a street, places like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But there are halachas that you're not allowed to daven next to the wall of a bathroom, even on the outside. You have to also go a little distance away. Walking 4 amas does not take long, definitely less than 10 seconds. There are, the Rebbe of Cairo writes that it could be even 3 or 4 seconds, the time that it takes. In Halacha Mishnah Berurah, he writes that technically, from the halachic standpoint, you're allowed to go to the bathroom in the place where you davened 3 or 4 seconds after you finished davening. However, there is a concept that's brought down in Sefer Chassidim that if one did the mitzvah of kisoy dam, kisoy dam is?
Oh, yeah, covering the blood after
correct, covering the blood after shechting.
Mm-hmm.
And one said a bracha over there, so then one should not spit in that spot. Because one said a bracha, davar shebikdush, or something of holiness in that spot. So therefore, even though one is allowed to go to the bathroom in the place where they daven, if it's outdoors, you should be careful and not to do it. And that's a halacha. Regarding, that's all regarding urinating, water. Regarding tsoya, which is excrement, which is more substantial and it smells. So if you could see it in front of you, it doesn't matter how far you are. You could be 100 feet away, but if you could see it, you got to turn around.
So that's actually like what doggy do.
Correct. If you could see it, and you can't daven in that spot. If you can't see it, but you could smell it, you also can't daven in that spot. You have to walk away from there to at least 4 amas, about 6 feet away from where you can't smell it anymore. Whenever we daven, it says V'haya machanecha kadosh. It says the Jewish army, whenever they went to war, they had to always go outside of the camp in order to go to the bathroom. And part of their battle gear was a shovel in order to bury and to cover over any feces, anything which came out smelly, because we're not just a physical people with a physical strength. Our strength is Hashem. And therefore, you want Hashem to rest. And therefore, we have to make our camp into a holy place, and not just our camp, our home into a holy place. Doesn't mean only physical, tzaya, excrement, also spiritually. Make sure our house is not full of things which Hashem will not be comfortable. If someone did go to the bathroom, and the only place to daven is over there, and it doesn't smell, so if you take about 4 ounces of water and pour it into the place where the urine is, so then he's able to daven after that. Or if it's totally absorbed in the ground, it's not wet at all, then he could also daven in that spot as well. Tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem will go and learn some more about nicknames. Could you call someone a nickname? We're going to bring from the Gemara, different Gemaras. We'll bring some very strict and stringent things about calling people names and nicknames. But we're going to ask Rebbe Zakkai, we're going to hear from Rebbe Zakkai the different things that he did in order to live a long life.
Oh, Rebbe Zakkai, was he Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, or was he actually like?
It makes sense that he's Rabbi Yochanan's father, just from the time period.
There were a few people who were from Shivei Shabai, but they were, and then afterwards, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made Yavna, they talked according to Beis.
Correct.
So there were some earlier people. I wonder if any of them was called Zakkai.
Not sure. We're hopefully today we'll conclude to Siman Ayin Beis. What do we do on Erev Shabbos? As it's known, there's different Yom Kippurs. There's Yom Kippur of the year, which is on Yom Kippur. There's Yom Kippur of the month,
Yom Kippur Katan,
which is Yom Kippur Katan, Erev Rosh Chodesh, That's a day the Rebbe would always go to the oil. Many people fast that day. There's a shlichus to be said that day, Tehillim. There's Yom Kippur of the week, which is when to do tshuva for the week, which is on Thursday night, Erev Shabbos. So many yeshivas stay up Thursday night to learn, but it's also supposed to be a time of teshuvah. There's Yom Kippur of the day, which is Kriya Shema Lamita, when one goes to sleep at night. There's one Yom Kippur of your life. You know what day that is?
The day that you die.
The day of your chasana.
Oh,
The day of your wedding. The day that you die, it's you don't have any second chances after that. But the day of your wedding, the day of your chuppah, is considered to be the Yom Kippur of your life. And therefore, every Friday, every Erev Shabbos, which is particularly Thursday night, particularly by Kriya Shema Lamita, is when Minhag Chasidim is. One should search your deeds and do teshuvah. And to do teshuvah and fix up anything what you did during the week. Friday is the Yesod. It's including the days of the week. Just like Erev Rosh Chodesh is a time to do teshuvah. It's a general day. One should have nice clothes. And it's Shabbos talis. Even the Alter Rebbe in prison, he said he fulfilled this mitzvah of having nice clothes for Shabbos. Although he wore the same clothes, he had a handkerchief which he cut into strips, and every Friday he would attach a new piece to his clothes that he was wearing in order to have a new garment for Shabbos. He says you should honor Shabbos. Your garments of Shabbos should be different than your garments of your weekday. Even if you're traveling amongst non-Jews, you should wear Shabbos clothes. Clothes are not in honor of those who see them, but in honor of Shabbos. I had the opportunity in the past to be a shliach on a dairy farm where you're the only Jew around for many miles. And spoken to other people who were there, and even though you're there yourself on Shabbos, it's still a mitzvah to put on your Shabbos garments, your Shabbos clothes. I had a first cousin. She passed away very young, unfortunately, at the age of 7 from leukemia. Her name was Minna, in the year 1990. And there was one Shabbos when she was in the hospital, and her parents were at home. So her grandmother, our grandmother, stayed with her in the hospital for Shabbos. And on Friday, she says to her grandmother, I want to put on Shabbos clothes. And for her to put on Shabbos clothes was very difficult. She was 6 years old. And she says, because they have to detach the IVs and to change her clothes and get a nurse to help them. And it was a very, intense procedure. And she says, why do you have to change your clothes? No one's coming to the hospital. No one's coming. She says, Bubby, how could you say that? Shabbos is coming. So of course, it's a mitzvah on Shabbos to change your clothes. The tailor of the Baal Shem Tov said that the clothes of the Baal Shem Tov on Shabbos were taller, were larger than the clothes that he wore during the week. Reb Nachum of Chernobyl used to daven an entire week under a shelf, and on Shabbos he used to daven next to the shelf just because he would physically grow from the enjoyment of Shabbos. Hatavshilin. And the Rebbe adds on something unique, that it's proper to reinstate the old minhag, the old custom, Chassidim in the old country, is that on Shabbos one should wear silk garments. Zaydin azupitza, silk garments. And although silk is much more fragile, it doesn't last as long, it can get ruined much faster. And according to Kabbalah, you're supposed to wear a coat over it if you're walking outdoors. But the Rebbe said that there's idea of meshi. Forgot what the Rashi Tevis is, an abbreviation. The word meshi, which means silk, and to reinstate that married men should wear a silk kapata. A zaydina zupitza. Hatachilin, or yudches yates, and chaf and chaf aleph. I think we're going to skip just because it talks more about. He's more connected to the halachas of hatmana, how to keep food warm on Shabbos. Just one interesting point to point out is in the beginning of Chaf Aleph. talks about you putting a pot of coffee to keep warm for Shabbos. You'll put it onto coals and cover it. You would put a pot of coffee. You would not make the coffee on Shabbos. The coffee was made before Shabbos, and then they kept it hot over Shabbos. So certain prominent Rabbanim say the best thing to do is to always make your coffee and make it before Shabbos.
And the other solution is you have Chirushan,
Chirushan, Klisheni, Klishlishi, correct. Yeah. But in order to really circumvent all types of possible halachic issues, he says the best thing to do is to make the coffee and your tea and any hot drinks to make it before Shabbos and then keep it hot, as opposed to doing it on Shabbos. He says, yes, there's, according to most opinions, it's all good, but to circumvent any problems, best to make it before Shabbos. Chav-Bais, Samach lechashecha yishal anshe beisei b'lashon raka. On Friday, you should gently ask your household. Why gently?
Because otherwise, actually, they may actually
lie to you in order to not make you upset. If you don't say it gently, they might lie to you to say they're not the truth in order that they shouldn't get you angry. And there's a story brought in the Gemara about this. You should ask b'lashon raka, in a soft way, Hifrashtem challah. Did you separate challah from the challah already? And if they didn't, you should do it. In Eretz Yisrael, the Alter Rebbe adds on, you should ask, did you already give Meiser? Other things, did you set the Shabbos clock? Did you turn off the ring doorbell? And any other thing you have to ask, and it's important to ask. And tell and remind them to light the Shabbos candles. A person must examine their clothing on Friday in their pockets before it gets dark. If he has nothing in his pockets, like a needle, like a kiss, nothing muktzah in his pockets. And even a place where there is an eruv, you should check your pockets because you might have something muktzah inside. There are many people which are particular that even in a place where there's an eruv, they don't carry in their pockets. They only carry in their hands because they might walk outside of the eruv or go to a place without an eruv, and it's very easy to overlook. Something in your hands, you always have in mind. This concludes Erev Shabbos. I'll say some more interesting explanations and additions about the idea of Erev Shabbos, and this has to do with what we had with Rebbe, why we say 16 Kadeshim a day. It has to do with Erev Shabbos. So many people have a custom, a minhag, to say Shir HaShirim. Shir HaShirim every single Friday afternoon. There's a story that Rebbe Aaron of Karlin, Aaron Agadol, Talmud of Lamagid, and he was saying Shir HaShirim Erev Shabbos. And the Maggid Mizrich sent him a message that right now, when you're saying Shir HaShirim, there's a tremendous tumult going on in heaven, and it's not allowing me to sleep. And he's trying to take a nap then. And this tumult you're making in heaven is not allowing me to sleep. So we see, as great as the Shir HaShirim of Aaron of Karlin, still the Maggid Mizrich's sleep was even greater than that. He was able to accomplish more with his sleep. And just to have an idea what it means, Shir HaShirim, greatness of Shir HaShirim. Rebbe Tzvi Zidachoiv, heard of him? Zidachoiv is a shul in Borough Park called Zidachoiv. He was a chassid, a talmid of Rebbe Baruch Mezhebush, and he wanted to come into the Baruch watch how the Baruch Mezhebush says Shir HaShirim on Erev Shabbos. He used to lock the door, make sure no one is around, and him and a friend of his, they went and hid themselves in the room where the Baruch Mezhebush was saying Shir HaShirim, and as the Baruch Mezhebush was saying Reich Shmanecha Tovim Yishakenu Neshikas Piu, and of course, just Chassidus reveals just the first layer of the depth of all these. As the Shlomo Chaim said, that we see that Shlomo HaMelech was not a chassid, because otherwise all the Meshalim he wrote in Shir HaShirim of love, which he wrote a mashal of love between Hashem and the Jewish people, and he wrote them only the closest mashal was the love between a husband and wife. So all the examples would have been the love between a chassid and a rebbe. He says, which goes even deeper. He says, as the Baruch Mezhebush was saying Shir HaShirim, he says he felt a tremendous burning fire of kedusha, of holiness, and he says thunder, lightning. That's what he was hearing. He Hershel Zidachov. And he felt that his neshama is going to expire, and his friend had to run out of the room. And he begged Hashem, please, give me strength to go through this. He says, I'm going to pass away. I'd rather have passed away hearing the Shir Shirim of Rebbe Mezhebush. And as was going on further, it says, Ki aza kamas ava, and he felt literally that his Shalheves Yudkid, the neshama is a burning fire. And he said, on the spot, he passed out. And his Baruch Hashem gave him the strength to go through it. But see, tremendous things of Shir Shirim. Alter Rebbe did not put it into the Siddur, because Alter Rebbe did not put everything into the Siddur, only was shliach to every single person. So according to the Zohar, it says 3 times a day, Parshas Noach, those in Gehenim get a break for an hour and a half. Altogether, 4.5 hours a day for 6 days of the week. During the time that the Jewish people daven and we say Amen Yehesh Mei Rabba, it says Shaito Palga. It gives them a break, or at least easier in Gehenim, those in Gehenim, for an hour and a half. After that, they have to go back into Gehenim. That's why Chabad's custom is we say those who say Kaddish say 16 Kaddeshim a day, because if each Kaddish lessens the severity of the judgment for an hour and a half, so altogether that's 24 hours a day. So Chabad custom is we say extra Kadeshim at the end of davening in order to come up to the number of 16 Kadeshim a day.
And Shabbos actually they get off anyway.
Shabbos they get off, and that's 24 hours. So according to the Zohar, every single day they get off an hour and a half 3 times a day. It's how many hours? 4.5. 1.5 times 3 is 4.5 hours a day. Correct? 4.5 hours a day they get off. Times that by 6 days a week, you get 27 hours. Add that to Shabbos. Shabbos is 24 hours. 24 plus 27 is?
51 or something.
Yep, you got it. 51.
I was blanking out.
But how many hours a week are left over for the neshama to be in Gehenim? I'll give you the calculation. It's 117 hours left in the week, besides for these 24 hours of Shabbos and the 27 hours of Shacharis Ma'ariv. Shir Shirim has exactly 117 psukim. So the minute to say Shir Shirim is to lighten the burden of those neshamas who have to suffer 117 hours a week. And therefore, it says Shlomo had 60 guards around his bed to guard him. That's in order to save him from the 117 hours of Gehenim. So therefore, Shir Shirim has 117 psukim to lessen those of 117 hours. And therefore, they said to say it on Shabbos in order to have kavanah to save those who are suffering. And we do other things as well. It says not to drink water between Shkia and Tzesek Chavim on Friday, because the Rishayim, Gehenim, need it in order to be lessened from their pain and suffering that they have to go through in Gehenim. And therefore, many people have a minute to add on holiness, add on extra time to Shabbos in order to lessen the pain of the neshamas of the soul which have to go into Gehenim. And there's many other things we do. That on Matzah Shabbos we draw fresh water from a well. Also, says the neshamas have to dip themselves in water, whatever that means in a spiritual way. And also another thing is on Shabbos we have to add a little time from the weekday, because in Eretz Yisrael Shabbos comes in generally the same time of the year, about 7 p.m. usually throughout the entire year.
Eretz Yisrael is much closer
to the equator, correct. And usually Shabbos comes in at the time of Mazel Maidim. Mazel Maidim is, we have between 6 or 7 or 7 and 8, depending on daylight savings time. So they have it, generally Shabbos comes in during a time of Mazel Maidim. And they therefore want to add on more time to Shabbos. They shouldn't start with Mazel Maidim.
Mars, right?
Mazel Maidim is Mars, correct. Okay, with this we shall stop. stop or conclude for today. And I hope everybody was able to see